vidéo pour les personnes qui ne pourront pas être présentes et qui vont désirer, dans le fond, savoir qu'est-ce qui a été posé comme question, puis avoir un peu un recap rapide demain de qu'est-ce qui s'est discuté ici. Donc, c'est juste pour vous avertir que la séance va être enregistrée. La première chose que je voudrais vous mentionner, c'est juste un quick reminder par rapport au courriel qu'on a eu. La compétition cette année est 100% virtuelle. Donc, il n'y aura pas de game playing field comme on l'a connu, mettons, l'année passée ou dans les années précédentes. Fait qu'il n'y aura pas une compétition comme physique avec des spectateurs et comme on l'a connu. Il va avoir quand même un défi de construire un robot. Il va quand même avoir il va quand même avoir toutes les components qu'il y a eu dans les dernières années. Il y en a qui vont devoir être changés, comme on a vu, comme on a en fait mentionné dans le pamphlet, qui vont être modifiés pour dans le fond, adapter la compétition aux défis de la pandémie, si on veut. Donc, pour ça, c'est ça. Les évaluations se font toutes en ligne. Il y a des choses qu'on ne sait pas encore. Il y a peut-être des opportunités qui vont se présenter dépendamment de comment le virus évolue. Mais pour l'instant, c'est dans l'optique vers laquelle on se dirige pour permettre, dans le fond, aux élèves d'avoir quand même une expérience qui est éducative dans laquelle ils peuvent apprendre. Puis de présenter un défi qui est quand même intéressant pour que tout le monde puisse, dans le fond, se développer, autant pour de la robotique que pour de la création artistique ou de la programmation. Ça, c'était le premier point que je voulais mentionner. Le deuxième point, juste pour clarifier, dans l'inscription, vous avez l'option de rajouter des CRC Connect, fait que le module, dans le fond, qui permet de contrôler à distance le, le board Arduino. Il n'est pas obligatoire cette année parce que, comme je vous l'ai mentionné plus tôt, il n'y aura pas de compétition comme d'habitude contrôlée avec la manette. Cette année, c'est un robot qui va être autonome. Donc, ça, c'est la première chose. Il n'est pas obligatoire cette année. C'est pour ça qu'il est en extra. Si vous le désirez pour apprendre à utiliser, dans le fond, le contrôle avec la manette. Dans le kit de l'option A, il y a un CRC board qui est déjà inclus. Donc, vous n'avez pas nécessairement besoin d'en commander un autre en extra. Quand on vous demande à la fin du formulaire, est-ce que vous voulez un board en extra ou des boards en extra, on vous propose dans le fond d'en commander plus si vous voulez, mais vous n'êtes pas obligé. Donc, si vous voulez avoir un kit complet, donc un board et une manette, et que vous prenez l'option A, vous avez juste besoin de commander un board, un CRC Connect en extra. Vous n'avez pas besoin du board Arduino quand on vous le pose à la fin du formulaire. Sinon, dans le fond, ce qui va arriver, c'est que vous allez avoir deux boards Arduino et une manette avec un module pour, dans le fond, vous connecter à distance. Donc, ça, c'était le petit point que je voulais mentionner après avoir vu, dans le fond, comme déjà les personnes qui se sont enregistrées. Donc, c'était un peu les points que moi, je voulais mentionner pour l'instant. On peut, si vous voulez, commencer à passer aux questions, à moins que Natacha ou Jeff ou encore Dave qui vient de se connecter ait quelque chose à mentionner de plus.
Well, I just want to go over if everyone understood all that, or if someone would like it repeated in English or has specific questions. Okay.
If someone could repeat it in English, please.
Yeah, no problem. So basically, the first point for this year is the competition is going to be at the current time 100% virtual. Of course, with the ever-evolving situation, if it is possible to maybe do some parts of it not virtually, we may consider it. But at the current time, we're planning for the worst-case scenario, which would be that. The other major point was about registrations and the registration form. Due to the competition being primarily virtual, in, you have the option on your registration form to select the CRC Connect. That is the add-on box that will allow you to control your robot with a controller, as was done in previous years. We made that optional this year due to the nature of the remote game not necessarily requiring it. So just to note that in your kit, when you get it, you will be receiving the CRC Arduino board, one per registration. So only select additional boards if you wish to have additional boards, and only select the CRC Connect if you'd like to practice with it ahead of time, for example. That was the gist of the major points, Alex, I believe.
Yes. Yes.
Actually, Alex, Alexandra and Jess, if I can just interject for 1 second. For those who are not used to using Zoom, on the bottom of your screen, there's a button for participants. If you click on that, you'll see a button that actually you can raise your hand if you have questions. And I believe right now we do have one question from Armin.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, because based on what I read on the documentations, this year's robot is not going to be remotely controlled. So what's the point of the Connect kit, or whatever you call it?
The primary, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, well, basically, the planned, the original plan was to switch everyone for to have the whole system, including remote control this year. But with the pandemics, everything is ready. So all the remote control, all the communication system is ready. But for this year's competition, the game itself that we are designing at the moment does not require it. It will be 100% autonomous robots. But for example, if your school had its budget already approved, or have I don't know, could have some spare time to be able to, for this year, start playing with the remote control to learn how it works, do some testing, etc., you can buy it right now, but you won't use it this year. So it's really an option. That's why it's optional. If some teams desire to and have the budget and etc., you can buy it right now. All the documentation, all the support is provided this year for the whole package if you want. But the game itself does not require it, so that's why it's an option at the moment.
We separated it out of the kit to keep registration costs as low as possible, taking into account people's possible budgetary situation relating to the situation this year.
Another thing, if I may, based on the the documents that we received, something that I believe was very unclear is we had two options. One, you just make a proof of concept, and the other one, you have to build an actual robot. Will we have to send the actual robot to you guys so that you will put it in a certain field and it will perform some tasks, or how would that compete? How would that work if you're building a physical robot and there is not a physical competition?
Well, basically, since it's an autonomous robot, what we will do, the playing field is basically will be built by teams. What we say with that is that basically in the past few years, well, since the beginnings, the game itself was played on a big playing field, like something like tens of feet wide and long. But this year, the playing field itself will be very minimal. Will be something that you guys will be able to build at home or at school using household products, household objects. So basically, you reproduce that field yourself, and you film your robot, completing the different tasks that we ask you guys to do. And based on that video, that's how we will evaluate you and stuff like that. So it's all video evaluate. I don't know, Alex, if you had something to add on that.
Nope.
Well, the only thing to add is, with the evolving situation, if it would be possible to evaluate your robot in person, it is something that we'd be open to. It's just at the current time we are taking the most conservative approach, as we don't know what the future will hold.
Yeah, the whole CRC season is basically prepare for the hope and hope, prepare for the worst and hope for the best. So worst case scenario, everyone is confined at home and could participate in the competition. But if things goes well, we could hold some kind of meeting or something like that. But we cannot say for sure right now. Everything changes in a matter of days. So that's a decision that we will take at the appropriate time later on.
Also, just a note in general for this meeting, we may not have all the answers to the questions you ask. So if we can't give you a satisfactory answer, please let us know and we'll try to get back to you with one.
Okay, right now there's no other questions, but Alexander, did you want to take questions as we go along, or if it is the case, I just saw a hand go up. No, it went away.
Yeah, it was Joseph.
Yes, Joseph, hand is up. Joseph, you're on mute. If you...
Yeah, hi. No, I was trying to raise it. I didn't see it, but you guys saw it?
We do. Yeah. We see everything.
Hey, oh, that's good. I have 3 questions. One regarding the controller. We ordered a few this year. I just want to make sure that there is no disadvantage in ordering them this year. I mean, you're not going to come up with a new model next year, are you?
No.
Well, hopefully we won't. What I mean by that is that basically what we come up with this year is basically the controller itself is basically the same thing that we had in the beta testing last year. The only physical upgrade that we did was we had some problems with the battery management. So when battery level dropped a little too much, the communication link was lost with the remote controller. So the only thing we basically modified is like how we manage the power supply coming from the battery. So that's really the only modification that we did, is a hardware modification to avoid that problem. It's the really only problem that we saw with the beta testing. We are fairly confident that we won't find any other major bugs that will bring another major hardware revision for next year. So yeah, we are fairly confident, but as if with everything, we don't know really what's ahead. So we can't guarantee that next year won't be like a major upgrade. But in any cases, if we do an upgrade or whatever, the stuff that you buy this year will be accepted next year for sure.
Thanks.
Does that respond to answer to your question, Joseph?
Yes, I was hoping also to hear maybe, listen, if we do an upgrade next year, maybe you can switch for a minimal fee.
Yeah, well, honestly, depending on what's the modification that we do, if there's it will really depend on if there's really an advantage or a disadvantage if you already bought your stuff and stuff like that. But really the basics of switching to an Arduino platform that we design really is to dramatically cut costs for teams. So the whole goal of the thing is to make robotics and the competition itself as accessible as possible. So yeah, if we stumble with something like that, well, we definitely will do some kind of arrangement on that to minimize to make sure that teams that invested this year won't be penalized as much if we happen to make some major modifications for next year.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you, Dave. The other question is, regarding competition, you said it's going to be done online, household items and everything. I got that. So so basically videos are going to be submitted, and this is the worst case scenario if understood properly. The question is, what about robot design and robot construction? Are we supposed to submit videos for those two?
Présentement, comme on discutait, ce qui va être réfléchi dans le fond, c'est le jeu va être, en tout cas, il y a plusieurs options qui sont sur la table, mais celle qui risque, en tout cas, qui est la plus probable dans le pire des scénarios, ça serait dans le fond des évaluations comme on a présentement, mettons avec Zoom, qui seraient faites en live avec les personnes qui font les évaluations. Fait que la présentation se ferait de la même façon que probablement normalement, fait que ça serait devant encore, en tout cas, comment on en a parlé devant encore devant des ingénieurs. Ça serait comme un board, si on veut, qui serait là sur Zoom. Les élèves feraient leur présentation du robot par webcam puis ils présenteraient leur robot dans le fond, au board de juge, dans le fond. Fait que ça serait comme ça qu'on le gérerait. Ça, c'est dans le pire des scénarios. Ça serait ça pour robot, design, puis pour le jeu aussi. Fait que c'est ça.
Et ma troisième question, est-ce qu'il y a une considération, ou bien is there a possibility, for instance, to maybe not launch the competition in November, maybe move it a bit through the season, move it farther away through the season, maybe launch it in January? Is it a possibility, or is it like out of the table, this thing? As much as we are enthusiastic to start, the laws are forbidding us. You know, we couldn't start last week. This week we can't start working, and we don't know what's going to happen in a week or two or in a month. You know, it's a mess. I mean, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. The question: how feasible is the possibility? I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Maybe Nat, if you want to maybe go on to that point, but it's definitely something that we've considered. But to be honest, we basically came to the conclusion that it will be a mess for the whole year. So any time frame that we choose will have some kind of limitations or stuff like that. Like cases might drop, cases might go up and down and up and down, and like kind of wavy for the whole year. So it's not really it's really hard to find a perfect moment. So based on the previous experiences that we've had juggling between the secondary high schools and CJEP schedules, we've always found out that the third week of February was the best compromise for everyone. So that's why we stick to that time frame. Same thing with the build period, or the kickoff versus competition time frame. We decided that like the 4 months of build season really is the best for students, so that they really have time to come up with some ideas, do some prototyping, and like they can really research on some new ideas, and it allows them to make mistakes and correct them, and etc.
Yeah, I think Dave hit it right on the nail. To be honest, there's a reason why we sent out our initial email to you guys at the beginning / mid-August and not earlier than that, as we usually do. So we spent the better part of the summer and the better part of the end of the last school year working with East, working with the board of directors, and working with our pedagogical committee as well, to kind of try to figure out how this pandemic has affected not only the schools and the administration, but also the teachers and the students and you guys as mentors. And, you know, we kind of, we went with the idea of potentially postponing the competition while not necessarily canceling it for this year. But ultimately, we came to the consensus that even if we push it, it's probably not going to be any better for the students or the teachers. And there are other competitions and other other events like the science fair and other kind of events that the students participate in later on in the year, that if we put our competition there, it may also affect the students' engagement within CRC. So ultimately, we kept it at the third week of February. It's not written on a clay tablet, meaning that if we do need to change it, we can change it. We made the competition and the overall look and feel of this year in a very scalable fashion. So if we do have to change from even virtual to in-person, or just kind of postpone the date to a later date, we can do that quite quickly and quite easily as well. So just some background information on that.
We actually have a few more people who just joined in, so I just want to welcome them and tell them that this meeting is actually being recorded. And at the same time, we have one question in the chat, and then after that, we have Armin and Victor. So the first question that came, I believe, is from Adam. Adam, do you want to ask the question directly, or do you
yeah, for sure. It's really just about the kiosk info. So I mean, like, I see that we're talking a lot about the robot competition, but as far as I see in the info pamphlet, all I have for information is that for the kiosk, we'll do a TED Talk styled presentation on our journey and the obstacles we overcome. So I'm curious as to what potential there would be for a kiosk, and whether it could be, related to maybe online design, which is something that I've been trying to get our club to do a little bit with 3D Builder, for instance. So I don't know as to how you guys might embrace, online design and programs like that.
I can take that one. To be honest, we also played with that idea as well. I think we can definitely take it back as a coordination team and potentially consider it. To be honest, the reason that we selected or opted to, I guess, replace the kiosk section with a more TED Talk style presentation is not to completely eliminate the art portion of our competition, of our multidisciplinary competition, as we kind of market ourselves. But also given the fact that students couldn't necessarily work together as a team, and that the kiosk building is often done as a team, and you would also have the robot being done as a team, we kind of, understanding the restrictions at the school level, we wanted to also provide an option that would allow students to still work together, but not necessarily in the same room. So if there is a TED Talk style presentation, then you can kind of organize yourselves virtually and also present virtually without having to necessarily meet in person. But I do like your idea, and I do appreciate your idea of 3D design. To be honest, I think we can take that away as coordinators and see what we can do, see if we can provide that option, and we can get back to you on that as well.
Okay, it makes sense.
All right. So the next person with their hand raised is Armin.
Yeah, I have two questions. One is necessarily about the TED Talk. For the TED Talk presentation, what I understood from from the pamphlet is, first of all, it's a presentation, and usually TED Talks are one person presenting. I wanted to know if it's possible for us to do like a video of a presentation, but in a manner of socially distanced for sure, but also multiple people being on the same scene and giving part of the speech. That's my first question. And my second question would be regarding the Arduino board. What I understand you guys did was based on like little info that you gave us last year, was that you built a library for Arduino to make the programming part a little bit easier. And you created your own board with the Arduino bootloader that has different connections compared to a normal Arduino. I just want to know if we can use our own Arduino board using your library. That's one part, and the other part is if we can use an Arduino Uno or any kind of Arduino raw and like straight with the Arduino.
Nat, do you want to go ahead for the first part?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll tackle the first question and leave it to you for the second. Yeah, so I think keep in mind, and also this is kind of a general statement, keep in mind that we have not finalized any of the rules yet. So all of the specifics regarding number of people on stage, number of people to present, the length, the content, etc., has not necessarily been defined. Obviously, at CRC, we're very big fans of collaboration. So I don't foresee us saying maximum one person on stage for the presentation. So, we may put a maximum, but I don't foresee that being one person. Understanding that I know usual TED Talks are one person, but we know that within CRC, there's many collaborating hands, and maybe not one person knows everything about everything. So it would be nice to get that kind of exposure to all of the different components. And again, from a TED Talk presentation and some background also on why we chose a TED Talk style presentation, through our experience, and the coordinators have been with the CRC for many years. So we took from our experience as participants, as well as suggestions from mentors and students over the years, with regards to wanting to kind of practice or get exposure to public speaking and stuff like that. So that's why primarily we have you guys presenting a lot of your things at the competition, your robot, your kiosk. So by eliminating the kiosk portion, we didn't want to eliminate a way for you guys to practice a presentation of sorts. So we've opted for that. And also it's more of a presentation for you guys to be able to sell to someone how you've managed to work together as a team, how you've managed to overcome some of the obstacles that we know will be in your way throughout the season because of the pandemic and because of other potential issues as well. So just keep that in mind, but we'll definitely be a lot more clearer once the rules are released.
Just to add a bit onto that, even when physical kiosks existed, it's 100% down to the presentation that the students give, whether or not a team would place extremely highly or highly. It all came down to that, which is part of why we wanted to put the focus on that.
All right, thank you. So for the Arduino part of your question, the short answer is no, you cannot use your own Arduino board. First of all, we want to make sure that everyone has the same hardware capabilities. So the same number of outputs, inputs, and communication protocols that they can access, so that it's a level field for everyone. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is basically that the library that we develop is specifically made for our hardware. So it won't work on other boards, on other Arduino boards. So yeah, that's basically the short answer. But to be honest, I don't see how using a Nuno or Nano would be like better for you. It's based on a Mega 2560 microprocessor. So you have 12 digital input outputs, 12 PWM outputs, 4 analog inputs. You can connect up to 3 motor encoders, and you have access to I2C, UART, and SPI communication. So honestly, for a CRC style robot, you have plenty of power to be able to build a very good robot with the hardware that we designed.
And also, just to note, you'd have issues using a Nano just in general to do everything that you're going to want to do.
And would it be possible for us to write the code without using the library?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can use the Arduino native functions. You can create your own functions. You can, if you want, you can write it in an assembly. Like honestly, you can do whatever you want, as long as you use our hardware. And yeah, so that's it.
We're not going to perform any code audits on what you have on your board. That's administration nightmare.
Exactly, but bear in mind that if you want support from us, we will only provide support for like native Arduino functions and our library. And also, if something happens or whatever, well, we will just flash it with the hardware, like the factory initial program that we put in all the boards. if something happens or whatever. So if we have problems and we help you try to debug it, well, basically we will only support our stuff.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. For my question is just that I support the idea of a virtual kiosk, like Adam said. So maybe what we could do is have a TED Talk, and sometimes they have like graphics in the TED Talk that you can show, like your something virtual. It's just an idea that I thought of to tell everyone.
It's definitely.
I'm seeing Natasha writing it down. So.
Okay.
Thank you, Natasha. Thank you.
We'll discuss it later. Yeah.
It's definitely a topic of discussion, seeing as how many of you are very interested in doing that. So
yeah,
it's just for my students to show them something like a 3D builder or any kind of like, especially working with 3D printers now, something like virtual that they can maybe splice. It's just another, for pedagogical aspects, it's another learning ability for them.
Yeah, for the kiosk, the main burden or the biggest challenge that we had was really the building aspect of it. Like if we see it as a full scale kiosk as it's been in the past few years, well then you have a 10 by 10 feet area where you would technically only be allowed to work one at a time on it. So that's why we really wanted to shift it to a presentation, but it's really interesting the propositions that you guys make. So definitely we will come back at it and discuss it and come back to you guys.
Thank you.
You can always tell this is a CRC meeting, so it's starting to get exciting and look, people have a lot of questions. So Adam, you were up next.
Yeah, thanks. Well, so that's the thing. I mean, I think that's a good kind of idea to look at with the whole kiosk. I feel like we're working in the right direction with that kind of stuff. I was just curious then with the TED Talk presentation itself, what kind of topics would it ideally cover? So like saying the obstacles we overcome, would that be more related to things like the playing field and building the robot? What are things that it would cover?
En fait, ça va venir probablement avec les règles au moment qu'on va les écrire. Comme pour le jeu ou pour n'importe quel autre aspect, on ne veut pas non plus trop divulguer de qu'est-ce qui va être demandé, vu en fait, pour être très honnête, c'est pas encore tout écrit, fait qu'on peut pas nécessairement vous dire qu'est-ce qu'on va exiger, mais essayer de réfléchir aussi des fois à qu'est-ce qui a été demandé dans les dernières années avec le kiosque. Je veux dire, au bout de la ligne, on a enlevé la construction d'un kiosque, mais la présentation du kiosque en tant que tel, il y avait des portions qui n'avaient aucun rapport avec, qui n'avaient pas de rapport avec l'essence même du kiosque, qui était de l'explication de votre équipe, des choses comme ça. Fait que c'est des trucs qui peuvent se retrouver encore dans le même genre de présentation. Fait que, mais ça va être plus confirmé quand on va release les règles au kick-off. Donc, pour l'instant, c'est le plus qu'on peut dire par rapport à ça.
C'est juste parce que pour moi, là, essayer de dire comme une histoire, puis si j'ai pas vraiment... c'est comme dans un TED Talk, c'est comme ça je comprends qu'on essaye de dire, OK, c'est comment le procès de notre construction, puis s'il n'y a pas des grosses choses qu'on peut faire, tu sais, comme physiquement, quand même, si c'est tout digital, c'est juste un peu plus difficile pour moi de comprendre c'est quoi les difficultés qu'on peut parler.
Mais tu as des difficultés à propos de l'organisation de ton équipe, tu as des difficultés à propos de plein d'autres affaires, pas nécessairement physiques.
OK, c'est ça.
Okay, up next is from West Island College, Mustafa.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having this session. Really appreciate it. For us, one of the biggest selling points for our school to get kids interested in robotics is kiosk. We don't really have a lot of kids who get into actual robot building. The majority of our team, but 3/4 of our team are in the kiosk portion. And telling them that you can't build a kiosk, it's not a lot of fun for them. So we're allowed to have small cohorts work within the school to actually build this kiosk. And we kind of have the space to set up the kiosk and, I don't know, show it to you guys virtually or do the TED Talk on the kiosk, but actually build it with the theme that we want and do the TED Talk based on the obstacles we overcame, and then the product that we got in the end. But we're allowed to have cohorts. Now, schools are allowed to have extracurricular clubs and sports team within the school. You have to control the number of kids that you have, but now the government did come up with that rule about 3 days ago, where they're allowing scholastic activities within the school. So if you guys give us that option to build a kiosk and to do it to the theme that we want, and then to do a TED Talk on that, you know, kids love that part because it's, you know, besides the robot, there's the artistic component, which a lot of kids really like, and doing just a TED Talk about, you know, the difficulties with the robot, yeah, but that doesn't really interest the kids who are the artistic types, unless they want to make a video and do effects and stuff like that. But those who like to work with their hands, like to paint, build stuff, carve stuff, 3D print stuff, yeah, all that is technically gone unless you want a 3D print for the robot itself.
So that's a really good point. And one of the general themes with everything that we're aiming for with the competition this year is not to limit schools and allow them to blossom as much as their internal policies allow them to. So it would definitely be something that would be seen in the rule book when it gets released, but it is a point that we're definitely considering and we are aware of. We would try not to stifle things like that.
Yeah, much appreciated.
And at most, we're trying to roll the punches. Like you said, the government changed its mind about 3 days ago.
Yeah. And
So-
all the color of Montreal tomorrow and a month from now, it all depends.
Yeah. Right now, the next person, and we already have 4 people on the list, is James.
I was just curious as to whether when you guys were looking at postponing the event, if you had ever thought about maybe still holding it at a school at a later date, say in June, during a weekend outside on a school's field for the robot aspect, if that ever crossed your minds.
It definitely did, but pushing it later on in the school years comes in conflict with the ministry exams at the high school level. Everything in June means that CJEPs are done and students are working or are away or stuff like that. So it was really hard for us to push it later on. Also, holding the competition only on a weekend means an extra burden on already overworked teachers like you guys. So we really don't want to go on that, not le moins possible. So that's why we will try to stick with something as much as possible that is during the weekdays. Mais comme on dit, le format, puis vraiment, le format exact de la compétition n'est pas encore 100% coulé dans le béton, là. Il y a plusieurs scénarios qu'on est en train d'évaluer, savoir combien de jours, c'est quoi les horaires et compagnie. Il y a vraiment beaucoup de possibilités vu qu'on est 100% online. Du moins, on prévoit être 100% online, donc c'est pour ça qu'on va préciser le tout un petit peu plus tard.
Isn't the competition already on weekends though?
Well, partly. But we want to give everyone the Sunday to take a breath and be able to come back and be able to attack the coming week ahead a bit rested. And also our volunteers need a break.
Yeah.
D'accord. La prochaine question, c'est vient du Collège Saint-Mathurin, Joseph.
Yes, it's me, right? I thought that was okay. I didn't speak soon. Okay, I have a question. Well, whatever you decide to do about the kiosk, it would be awesome to know as soon as possible. You know, because we're already forming teams and starting to work, and it would help us. I mean, if you could get that settled, that would be great. I know the competition is due for maybe, I don't know, in about 4 to 8 weeks, but it makes a difference, you know, if you consider the whole thing, it makes a difference. I had a question. I don't know whether it was, whether it's top secret now to ask you this or not. Maybe it'll come later, but how do you see the robot competition evolving? I mean, if we're gonna send videos to you guys, what are the stages? I mean, let's say the robot is autonomous and it needs to follow a certain path. And okay, we send you a video of that, and then okay, that's it. I mean, is there a video that we have to send every day? Maybe a video in the morning, a video in the evening, a video the next day. I mean, usually the competition takes place over 2 or 3 days. I mean, can you get an idea about the structure, or is that also not to be discussed right now? I mean, it just...
Well, do you want to go ahead with the two-stage prelim versus finals thing that we came up with, at least, Alex or Nat?
Ben, ça dépend pourquoi, en fait. Pour le jeu, présentement, on est en discussion pour essayer de reproduire peut-être quelque chose qui est dans le style de la compétition, dans le sens que on veut. C'est tout encore en création parce qu'on va être honnête, avec tous les changements qu'il y a eu, il a fallu beaucoup de gens jongler avec différentes idées de jeu.
Ça fait 4 fois qu'on recommence le jeu.
Ouais, c'est ça, c'est en plein ça. Je veux dire, on avait un jeu qui était tout prêt quasiment en mai, puis il a fallu qu'on se. Genre, en tout cas, c'était terrible.
It was a really good game ready in
Yeah.
May.
Yeah. Joseph, can you actually believe that we were ready in May?
Yeah. Mais dans le fond, c'est ça. Fait que là, avec tous les changements qu'il y a eu, il a fallu qu'on passe par plusieurs idées différentes, qu'on revienne à la case départ. Présentement, on essaie de créer un jeu où on va pouvoir donner le même, si on veut, la même impression de comme avoir comme 3 jours de compétition. Donc, mettons, les élèves vont pouvoir tester leur robot à une première journée / essai / on ne sait pas encore, mais qu'ils vont avoir du temps pour improve leur robot, pour l'améliorer, parce que c'est aussi là le point fort de la compétition, c'est qu'on permet que dans le fond, les élèves puissent apprendre, puissent travailler à trouver des solutions par rapport aux problèmes qu'ils découvrent sur leur robot pendant la compétition, si on veut. Donc, cette année, c'est ça. On n'a pas encore déterminé comment ça va se faire. On a une petite idée par rapport au jeu qu'on est en train de concevoir. Mais oui, on essaye de reproduire un peu le modèle des dernières années, peut-être un peu plus adapté par contre au fait qu'on ne sera pas tous ensemble et que les jeux ne se joueront pas de la même façon. Ça sera pas en tout cas, dans l'idée qu'on a présentement, il n'y aura pas de vidéo préenregistrée. Tout va devoir se faire en live. Parce que aussi, on veut éviter comme le fait qu'on ait un robot qui soit contrôlé de façon pas autonome, s'il y a du monde qui ont des CRC Connect, ou on veut éviter le fait que sinon une équipe fasse des tries non-stop jusqu'à temps que peut-être, à un moment donné, ça fonctionne. Le but, c'est qu'on veut un robot qui est quand même capable de façon constante de réussir à effectuer la tâche de façon autonome. Donc, ça va être quelque chose qui est en live puis pas pre-record pour ce qui est du game. Dans le pire des scénarios, dans le fond. Je ne sais pas si ça répond à ta question, Joseph.
Okay, and the next question is coming from RTC.
Can we get that in English as well, or
sorry?
Can we get the same explanation in English as well?
Oh, yes. Before we jump over, can we have a translation?
Je peux faire. So yeah, basically, we had a very good game already a few months ago, and we had to basically change it. We've changed the game several times. It's not 100% finalized yet, but basically, the question was with regards to the automation of the robot and videos. So basically, what we're going to be planning to do and what we're working towards is to have the game played completely in a live fashion. So there's no pre-recorded video of what your robot can do. We're basically trying to emulate as much as possible the 3-day competition that we would usually have. So you will get the opportunity to basically play your heats, and you will be playing in live with your automated robot. So that's basically what we're working towards. Obviously, again, not 100% finalized, so more details to come on that. But that's really what we're aiming towards, to kind of emulate as much as possible and keep kind of a consistency from prior years.
Okay. RTC.
Yes.
Joyce, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I guess just because that was actually one of my questions, is I'm not sure if I maybe missed anything just with the English and the French, but regarding the competition, it is 100% virtual. It is not going to change to physical. Is that?
The more physical we could do is maybe go to the school to do the evaluation of the game, the autonomous game, do the maybe the
Preliminaries.
Preliminary.
evaluation of robot design and construction. But this is in like a really good case where we are not going like we were in March or April.
The possibility of holding something in person is very, very, very small considering the whole
Logistics, ramp
logistics.
up time, the
Yeah.
cost of inscription this year, etc. It would be a very big about face, and there's honestly no time to do it. So the chance is near zero.
That is perfect because it's just great because it'll be great if we can plan for a virtual and then we stay virtual and not have, say, at the last moment have to all of a sudden start scrambling and having to organize to get to a certain location. Especially because it's not a 10-minute drive anywhere in Montreal, especially with construction and everything. So it'd be great if we can know that it's 100% virtual, and then we can plan on that and also start building the actual course. Because I know our location, we might have to dedicate a certain location to build it. And not have other students interfere or modify it or something like that. So
actually, there is. I don't think there is a scenario where the school would have to move to a certain location.
For the evaluations, as we were discussing, we would come to you if that's something that your school would allow and regulations would allow, and you would present in your robotics room, etc. There's going to be no schools moving this year. 100%. You can take that.
Okay, perfect. Will there be any restrictions on? You were mentioning that the Arduino board we have to use is the CRC Arduino. Will there be any other restrictions on sensors or batteries or anything like that that we're not allowed to use or restricted to?
Can you please repeat? I missed the first part of your question.
Oh, no problem. For the equipment and the hardware we can use on the robot, are there any restrictions? As you mentioned, the CRC Arduino, we have to use it, but are there any other restrictions regarding the batteries we use or the sensors or?
Well, yes and no. They will all be explained in the rule book, but basically will really be essentially be the same thing as last year, being the sensors. Well, if you can interface it with the CRC Arduino, yes, you can use it. And as far as power is concerned, we usually restrict the battery technology that is used so that it remains safe for students to play with. And if they do something wrong, well, it does not explode and burns the whole school down. So we usually stick with the sealed lead batteries. So really, it's really these kinds of limitations that we're looking at. Sensor-wise, if you can interface it with the CRC Arduino using the communication protocols that I mentioned, so whether serial/UART, SPI, I2C, you should be good to go with these sensors. But really, it will be detailed in the rulebook. And as always, if you're not so sure, you have a question or want to make sure that it's legal to put this or this part on your robot, you just contact us and we will be able to confirm it. It will be a pleasure for us to do so.
Yeah, Manager will be up again, and you can feel free to post your questions there like last year.
Okay, so just for some, at RTC we have a high turnover of students. So a lot of the information from last year doesn't always get transferred over to the next year. Is there a place that we can go and get all the information, or
like the technical information, or
just any information? Like you were just mentioning, you'll post that on a manager or something.
Yes, so Manager is the platform that we use to interact with teams. So to post your questions, do your submissions for a video and stuff like that. So that's the Manager platform. And also the Manager platform you will also have access to a wiki of some sort. Well, it is a wiki containing a lot of information concerning the technical aspect of robots and stuff like that. We're really pushing towards giving lots of technical informations to schools, especially on the Arduino system, since it's the first year that we roll it out to everyone.
And I want to take the opportunity because you mentioned a good point of turnover, and you're not the first to have mentioned, turnover rates and kind of, a lack of communication or just a gap in communication, both on the technical aspect and on the logistics aspect. So, David did mention the wiki. In there will be a lot of technical information, and it'll be continuously updated by the coordination team, or even just our volunteers who volunteer with CRC. But in addition to that, we are also creating wikis on just the overall competition. What happens at the competition? How do you prepare for the competition? What do you need to do at the competition? What do you need to get? What's the timeline? So those are the questions that come back year after year. So we're gonna, create a wiki that would hold all of that information. So you'll also get that. And I think that'll help also to kind of minimize the gap and between turnovers and between teams.
And as always, if you have any subjects or matters that you would want to be added to the wiki, or specific questions or anything, the best way for us to give that information is basically for you guys to ask the questions, or say, oh, I would like an article wrote on this or that subject, so that we can build that knowledge base available for all teams.
And how do we access this manager?
This is only going to be accessible when the season is going to start, because we give access to every school that is that made the subscription. So we give the access at the kickoff.
Okay, perfect. And just my last question is, I know from previous years you guys did workshops and information sessions, and will you be doing it this year again?
Yes, it will be all webinar based. So the subjects and the all the details will be published later on, more closer to the kickoff.
If you and your students have something that they'd like to recommend as a workshop, feel free to send us or drop us a line with that.
Yeah. The biggest challenge organizing webinars and workshops and stuff like that is that there's a whole lot of things that you can touch, or that you can go ahead and explain during a webinar like that. Like, you can be super technical and super precise, or you can be super general for students that are starting. So if you send us our questions or the subjects that you want us to cover, then it's really easier for us to pinpoint exactly what are the needs of both the teachers and the students, so that we can hold an info session that's as much as that meets the needs of the students and the mentors.
And I think also the best thing we can provide to you, in addition to all the technical support and the workshops, is just in general tips and tricks on the different components, right? As I mentioned, we the people who are leading the workshops are all CRC volunteers who have been participants for many years and volunteers for many years. So they've collected this whole host of knowledge that we just basically keep in our heads and we can't share, so we want to share that. It's not that we want to keep it to ourselves. So if there are any specific questions that you have, or anything that we can implement into a workshop, whether that be technical workshop or just an activities workshop of some sort, that we kind of provide you our tips and tricks, then we can definitely work around that and do that for you guys.
That's all from me. Thank you so much.
All right, wonderful. The next person is Ali Reza.
Hi, hello.
Go ahead.
Hope you all are staying safe. And well, I got two questions about this competition. First of all, the first one is about the video, like the TED Talk video that we are making. Well, the question is, we like TED Talk videos are like mostly kind of like it's just like one person giving a speech to other people. It's not like that catchy for other like. It's not so famous like about being fun about it. But I mean like I don't know if there is like a rule or something like that about TED Talk. Have you ever decided on it? Is there any rule that we can't just go like make a story, like make like a movie like last year that
So,
CRC did?
so the TED Talk is not necessarily the video component. Anyway, sorry, someone else could probably answer this better than me.
Well, I can take that. I mean, the rules are not written. I'll be transparent. We have not started writing the rules for that particular component. So I can't tell you yes or no if, there's, what are the rules that are going to be around it. But, we've listened to all of you guys here today and listened to your suggestions. And, I think it's definitely one of the components that we can look into a bit further and see if maybe we can provide another option for those who may not want to do the TED Talk and may want to try something else. So I think it's one of those components that we'll probably still review and get back to you specifically on what we want to do. So I mean, the TED Talk and the video are completely separate. I mean, the video component remains the video component as it has been in prior years. But the TED Talk was primarily to replace that kiosk portion that maybe now we'll bring back into some 3D designs, since a lot of you have suggested that. But yeah, I mean, they're two separate components, but it's definitely up for discussion at this point.
I have another question about the evaluation and like judging. I know like in the worst case scenario, it might happen that no one can go anywhere. So we have to like send you videos of our robots. So I mean like there is a possibility that like a team can like, for example, build a robot, do a part, like get a video and like cut it, like some video editing and something like that. Or there is another problem that like, will you judge by the video or will you judge by the performance of the robot?
I'll just stop you. As we've previously said, it would be live presentation and not a pre-recorded video for your robot stuff.
Sorry, I didn't hear, or maybe it's
fine. Don't worry. Don't worry about it before it went on, because the crux of that is the answer.
Yeah, and that's all. Thank you so much for that.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. The next one up is Joseph.
Hi, thank you. One last question. You said that we need to use household items for the course this year. So are we building our own course at our schools? And then do we have to buy those items? Do I have to include that into my budget, basically? Sorry, I'm a budget guy.
For the course, we're thinking about what the game is going to be, but if there is like specific pieces that are really crucial to the game, we are going to provide them. What you're going to have to build is going to be really minimal. Like basically you're going to be able to do it with probably like electric tape for like if there is line tracking. We're going to like make something really basic for you and really low cost.
OK, perfect. Mais si c'est possible, est-ce que je peux utiliser comme une chaise de chez nous, quelque chose de même pour sauver le
oui,
budget?
mais honnêtement, il n'y aura pas, comme de l'idée de ce que j'ai, de ce qu'on a commencé à réfléchir comme jeu, il n'y aura pas vraiment beaucoup de choses que vous allez avoir de besoin pour reproduire le terrain qu'on a, dans le fond, qu'on est en train de réfléchir. Donc, il n'y aura pas de matériel vraiment nécessaire pour réussir à reproduire le terrain qui va être spécifié.
On dit un terrain, we're really talking about a field, but it's really not the kind of field that we're used to in the competition.
That we're used to, yeah, exactly.
Ça va plus, tu sais, juste pour au moins donner une idée de grandeur, parce que vous êtes tous habitués à des terrains d'à peu près 16 pieds par
40 pieds.
40, ouais, c'est ça. Ça va être quelque chose plus autour de 8 par 8 cette année. Là. Je veux dire, il y a un robot dessus, puis on est très conscient que c'est pas faire un robot autonome sur un terrain qui aurait à peu près 40 pieds par 16 pieds, c'est extrêmement difficile.
Yeah.
Même pour du monde qui sont dans le. Même pour du monde comme nous, à un certain point, c'est quand même gros, puis il y a beaucoup de variables en jeu sur un terrain de cette grosseur-là.
Mais pour une école comme nous, on n'a même pas la place de 40.
Ouais, mais c'est ça, de toute façon, c'est la première chose aussi. Fait que ça va pas être démesurément gros comme on a l'habitude de le voir.
Même nous, on n'a plus accès à notre 40 par 16 field.
Ouais, c'est ça.
Yeah, exactly. Just to translate for the English, my English colleagues, the course will be 8 by 8, not as big as usual, 16 by 40.
Approximately 8 by 8, no, yeah.
I'm just doing a translation, David. I'm not making any rules.
No, thank you.
Yeah. And it will be just household items, but if there's anything that the CRC will need specifically, they'll provide. So no big budget constraints there. Thank you very much for answering my question.
And thank you, Joseph, for translating.
Build off of that?
No problem.
That's fine. Yeah, sorry, if Wilson, I just want to build off of this quickly. Is it intended for this smaller, I guess, kitchen-size field to be built at someone's house, or like a classroom at the school, or what's the idea behind that?
Yeah, it's gonna be taught to be able to build it in the classroom without much constraint.
Okay, that's cool.
Well, if you have like a minimally big living room or something, you could build it at home also.
Oh yeah, no, but that's it. I mean, like being able to build it at the college or for high school. I mean, I think that's really the best way to do it. So at least everyone could possibly come by still to see it.
Yep.
If that's the case, the next question comes to James.
Yeah, so I'm not exactly familiar with everyone else's building process when it comes to their robot, but personally, from my experience, I know that what I like to do with my team is take our base and make it something that we can reuse for the years to come. And I know that since the field is going to be scaled down, when it comes to the base, which is something that we invested a lot of time into last year, and we have improvements to make on it. Well, we had improvements to make on it this year, given a regular size field. Would that be something that we could scale down, or would that be just too big when it comes to the scale of this competition?
Well, honestly, we cannot really go on too much with that without going public with the rules yet. But basically, the best answer I can give you right now is that you have a pretty good base for next year when we hopefully come back to a full-scale playing field with a normal competition. But probably this year you would have to create a new base. Also, since it's not a remote control robot, you might not necessarily have to have a robot with wheels or stuff like that. So you will have to be creative with your concept. So like the base, like the robot base that you were using in the past might not be appropriate for this year. Regardless of the size of the challenge or the size of the playing field, maybe it won't be appropriate for the task that you will be required to accomplish.
Okay. The next question goes to our friend from RTC, Terjes.
Yes, thank you. I just have a quick question. Is there a specific email address or something that we can send our webinar topics, ideas, or anything to?
Well, basically info.crc. info@sciencetech.ca. So it's the general email that reaches all of us, and then we dispatch it. So info.crc@sciencetech.ca.
Oh, perfect. Somebody just posted.
I've written it in the chat.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. That's all for me. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So that email really is the one stop for all questions related to CRC.
Also, just to note on
people always looking at that inbox answering questions.
Also, just to note on time, we will do a hard stop of the meeting at 7, so we'll just try to increase the pace if there are many more questions to go through, and if not, we can call it early.
Well, right now there's one more hand up, and it goes to Adam from.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. I mean, so I don't know if we have like a lot of questions right now. Anyways, I don't want to take too much time on this, but I want to kind of like paint the picture of an idea I had here with the whole competition of, as I understand right now, we have a lot of people, right, suggesting ideas and stuff like that. In a way, it's like ideas to be able to expand the reach of this competition and the scale of it. And as I understand, of course, many of these ways of expanding it, they're not really possible, of course. I mean, because we can't actually meet at a big event and have all high schools and colleges necessarily come. But what I found was really interesting is the fact that colleges and CEGEP, or high schools and CEGEPs, of course, can have their own kind of local things going on. I don't want to say necessarily events, but it's more just down to the fact that each and every single high school and CEGEP might have different policies. And as a result, they're a little bit more flexible towards being able to have more localized events, let's say, if it were somehow outdoors, or if measures could be met a lot easier. And I feel like what might be a little more feasible is somehow being able to have engagement for high schools and CEGEPs towards their clubs through their own kind of smaller local events, and still be able to have the CRC have, you know, in a way, being able to connect and unify everyone through the virtual CRC events. So like having a smaller robot course like that be all virtual. And it would, in a way, would be able to help sort of like bring together the local aspect of it to still be able to have people meet, let's say. And it could just be anything like, you know, building off of the competition, like having, let's say, a local robot race. I don't know, you could have something like that and have people within your club work in smaller groups and then be able to engage with each other still and meet social distancing measures and things like that to still be safe, yet still have the bigger picture of CRC reaching out to each and every different high school and CEGEP with their own events, you know? So there's like two events at the same time.
We definitely considered it. Most of the time, especially this year with the pandemic, the biggest hurdle to stuff like that really is insurance and responsibility. Who takes responsibility for hosting something in person? Is it CRC? Is it East? Is it the school, the whole school? Is it the schools that are participating or stuff like that? So short answer, it might be really tough to implement, but if you have, like, I see that you have lots of great ideas for the formatted competition, stuff like that. Really encourage you to contact us on our email so that we can have a further discussion on all these things.
Because the way I see it is that the CRC, it doesn't have to be a part of the CRC's competition, but it's more, I'm suggesting it towards schools is that they can just try to look at ways of implementing their own ideas within, to some extent, to some scale, being safe with their own school. That's all pretty much. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Adam. And actually, James has put up his hand. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, one thing that I remember from previous years, I know not so much anymore. Actually, I don't think it happened at all last year. Would a school be allowed to enter 2 robots? Or is that no longer a thing?
It's definitely still a thing. I don't know. Nat, do you want to go ahead on this?
Yeah, I'll take that.
With the detail,
yeah, good question. So basically, the answer is yes. You can I guess participate with more than one robot, but you will be considered a second team. So similar to what we've had in the past, and you know, I don't want to call anyone out, but you know, we'll have let's say Boîte Boulogne number 1 and Boîte Boulogne number 2. So you would be considered 2 separate teams. You would be scored separately, ranked separately as well. So if you would like, you can participate with a second robot, but because that means you're participating as a second team, you will also be able to participate in all of the components twice, basically, once for your team number 1 and once for your team number 2. If you wish to not participate in the other components and only participate in the game, then your second team will be ranked only on the game, the robot construction, and the robot design, and will not rank in any other component. So it's up to you guys to choose whichever one you choose. Keep in mind that if you are not ranked in the other components, I don't think it is even possible to make top 3. Not that we're kind of, you know, we're not kind of saying you need to win the competition. That's not it. We don't say anything about that, but that's just something to keep in mind for your teams as well. If you are looking for being placed in the top 3, we do suggest that you participate in all components. So in terms of costs, the second team is lower than the initial team. So depending on your option, so if you're picking, for example, option A, which is the one you would pick for your robot team, then it's 1,080 for the registration cost for your team number 1. Your team number 2 would cost 650, and other teams would also cost 650. So if you want 3 teams, 4 teams, 5 teams, whatever, any team after the first team would cost $650 to participate.
So
If we
just
wanted,
to also add a bit to the primary and tertiary teams, if you're only participating in the robot section, you are able to select which is your primary robot team up until the beginning of the competition, is what we were planning to do for that.
and when it comes to people working on the robot, could it be the exact same group of people on team 1 for a robot and team 2?
Yeah, that would be at the school's discretion. So you would register as 2 teams. We don't necessarily have a preference if it's the same people working on those 2 robots. Your choice.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Oddly enough, there's no hands. Does anybody have any other questions? Okay, I think I'm out of a job. Oh, Joseph put his hand up. Go ahead, Joseph. You're on mute.
I just want to thank you all. I don't have a question. I don't envy you for what you're doing. It's a hectic situation. We're teaching, and it's a catastrophe. You know, sometimes we're stuck with people who are sometimes in class, sometimes outside the class. They're absent. We don't know why they're absent. So it's a big mess. And organizing all of this is not an easy thing. I thank you, and really appreciate all what you did. Absolutely.
And we definitely appreciate your efforts, all of you teachers out here. That really, it's really a hard time for your regular job teaching, that is already really difficult task where you put so much effort and time in, and that you also want to register in our competition and make sure that your students have access to an enriched and interesting learning opportunity like ours. It's really appreciated from us, and we're really excited to tag along you guys and proceed with this kind of weird but awesome robotic season that's just ahead of us.
Yeah.